Hello, second graders. We are going to do our first math lesson, which is Unit 5, Lesson 3. Now, there's not a page in your math book today, and you did not miss anything. Lesson 1 and 2 were calendar exercises that we did before the school closures. So today is the first day of the graphing. Okay, the materials you need right now are paper and a pencil. You can use just a plain loose piece of paper, or you can use a page from your notebook. Okay, look at the objective and read it with me. I can make a picture graph using a drawing that includes an axis, a title, labels, and pictures. Now, I don't know how to change the view, so I'm going to show you what some of those words mean. Okay, so let's look at our word cards. The first card is graph. Say it with me, graph. A graph is some kind of chart that we use to show information. And here's a picture of some graphs. This is a circle graph or pie graph. It shows how many in each group. This is a graph you might see on the news recently. These are the ones that they use to show things about the coronavirus. This kind of graph has jagged lines and it shows different changes over time. And these three types of graphs are what we are going to be learning in our unit. Okay. Another word that you need to know is axis. Say it with me, axis. An axis is two lines that meet in this corner. One goes vertically and one goes horizontally, kind of like a capital L shape. Axis. One of the words that I used for axis was horizontal. And notice that, like if I make a capital H, it's very long and it goes from side to side. That's horizontal. A horizontal line goes from side to side. The next vocabulary word is vertical. Say it with me, vertical. A vertical line, look at this deep V to remind me that the line goes up and down. Those are the words that you need to use for this lesson. Now, I'm going to get out my paper in my notebook and open to my first page. Now, I wrote the steps for making a graph. In here, you do not need to write it. Please don't write it right now. You can pause it and write it later, or pause it before you go on, but please don't do it at the same time as the lesson. The first step in how to make a graph is draw an axis. Okay, so I'm going to go to my plain page here, and I'm going to do that. Now, you need a straight edge, like a ruler, to help you with your lines. Okay, now I don't have a ruler, so I wanted to show you a couple of things that you could use to make your straight line. You could use something from the mail. You could use something like a CD, or the side of a box. You could also just get a paper and fold it so you have a straight line, and that's what I'm going to use today. Now, you should be using a pencil, but I'm going to use a pen so that you can see my lines on the camera. Okay, and what I did here was I started at the top and I counted 10 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I put a little dot here to remind me that that's where the 10th space goes. And you need to use your hands like a ruler. Use one hand to hold the straight edge and use your other hand to draw the line. Now, I don't have a person to help me with the camera, so I'm going to do it one-handed here. Well, I'm going to use my hand and be really close. Okay. Okay, so I made my straight edge, and I'm just going to put like a little arrow at the top because I can make that line go longer if I need to. Now this line is just going to go across the blue. So I'm going to hold it with one hand, and I'm going to make my line going across. Oops, I got a little off. And I just went almost to the end, the other red line here. I don't need to go all the way off the paper. Okay, so now I have an axis. Okay, and I'm going to put my little arrow there. All right, so the next step is write the title. Now, a title is telling what information is in your graph. Our graph today is going to be about pennies. So I'm going to go to the top of the graph, just like the top of a book cover would have the title. And I'm going to start with a capital letter, because titles start with capitals. And we're going to be looking at pennies. So I'm going to write that title, starting with capital P, and write the word pennies. Okay, number 3. It says label one axis. Now I could either label the vertical axis or the horizontal axis, not both, okay? Today for practice, we're going to label the vertical axis. And how do we do that? The vertical axis, or the axis, tells you who or what the information, where you got your information. So here are my friends where we're going to get our information. This is the cat. They don't really have names. This is bear and frog. Okay, so I'm going to start with cat since she's there at the end. And cat starts with C. So I'm going to come back to my axis and see where the corner is. And the space above, I'm just going to write a C for cat. Then I'm going to skip one space and go up. And I'm going to put B for bear, skip a space, and go up and put F for frog. Okay? It's okay that I have this other space. If I added more animals, then I would have room to do that. So that's why I wanted a big graph. Okay? So we did that. We labeled one axis. And then it says enter data. Well, before we do that, I want to make a second graph on the bottom so we can see how the data looks 2 different ways. Okay, so we're going to make another graph right here in the bottom with right underneath. Okay? Oh, actually, we can, you know what, let's fill in the data first. Okay, so enter the data. All right, so we have to go over here to cat. And cat, let's see, they played a game and they each got different amounts of pennies by the end. So I'm going to count cat's pennies, and I see 2. Okay, now I forgot to ask you, what would be a good picture to use for pennies? Because our pictures on a picture graph should not be too detailed. I don't want to make it too complicated. So since pennies are circle shape, I'm just going to use a circle shape. Okay, and right next to the C where it says cat, I'm going to put 1 penny and a second one. So I just have 2 circles. I know what they are because I have my title. Okay, now let's look at how many pennies bear has. Bear has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pennies. Okay, so I come back to my graph, and next to B for bear, I'm going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And notice that I have a little bit of space in between, and I'm writing it neatly. Last label is for frog. Oh, frog has a lot of pennies here. Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So frog had 8 pennies. So here I'm going to draw them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so we have completed the 4 steps for this graph. We made an axis, we wrote the title, we labeled one axis and entered the data. Now we're going to show it a different way. Okay? So skip a couple of lines and then I'm going to count my 10 spaces again. So I'm going to count from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I'm going to put a little dot down here to remind myself. And then I'm going to use my straight edge. I'm going to use my straight edge to make the line. Okay. All right, and then I'm going to use my straight edge for the vertical line. And it's okay, it doesn't have to be perfect. I just don't want it to get into the other graph. Okay, so now I have a new axis. All right, and second step is title. So it's the same title because we're using the same data. So I'm going to start with capital P for pennies. It's okay if it's, as long as it's at the top, it's okay that it's a little bit inside. All right, this time we're going to label the other axis. We're going to label this axis. So next to the dot, I'm going to write my C, and I'm going to use a finger space and then write the next letter, which is B for bear, and another finger space, and write F for frog. Okay? And this time, I'm going to show the data above the letter, above the label. So cat had 2 pennies, 1, 2. Bear had 5 pennies, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And frog had 8 pennies, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So now you can see that we have 2 different picture graphs. We have one where the information goes horizontally. The other one is for the information going vertically, but they tell the same thing. If you like, you can make another graph and find something in your home to see how many people, you can use pennies or candies or chips or crayons, and ask each person in your home to choose an amount, and then you can make a graph about it and show me next time. Let's make sure that we did our objective. We made a picture graph. We included an axis, a title, labels, and pictures, which were the circles today. Good job. See you next time.